Hey everyone, it's Abigail Molina with Molina Law Group, where we freeze the fear of ICE and help immigrants and their families arrive at a place of security and prosperity here in the U.S. Hola a todos, soy la abogada Abigail Molina con Molina Law Group, donde congelamos el miedo al ICE y ayudamos a los inmigrantes y sus familias llegar a un lugar de seguridad y prosperidad aquí en los Estados Unidos. So thanks for being with us. Today is Sunday, January 30th. I have no idea where this month went. It just like flew by. It's kind of crazy that Tuesday will be February, already a new month. I hope that this new year is treating you well. I am here today to answer any questions that you may have regarding immigration cases or criminal defense cases. I have promised to be here every Saturday and Sunday. You may never know when I am going to be live, so make sure that you have turned on your notifications and that you're following our page so that you can know when we go live. Today I gave a heads up of a couple hours, so you may have seen that and you might be here as a result of that. But sometimes I won't give any heads up. So if you are following us, you turn your notifications on, that will give you an alert that we have gone live. This is your chance to ask any of your questions that you might have regarding your case. Maybe you just never get around to calling us to schedule your free discovery call. So maybe it's the top of the mind that you have this question burning on your mind. So now's your chance to ask your question. So we are here today for live Q&A. Fin de semana. Estamos aquí hoy para contestar todas sus preguntas. Tal vez tiene alguna pregunta de inmigración o de un caso de defensa penal. Entonces, estamos aquí para contestar sus preguntas. He prometido de estar aquí todos los sábados y domingos para todo el año. Entonces, si estoy afuera de la oficina, van a ver dónde estoy. Anoche estuvimos en el centro de Eugene. La semana pasada estuvimos en la ciudad de New Orleans. Entonces, donde quiera que estoy, voy a estar aquí los sábados y domingos. Nunca vas a saber cuándo exactamente. Hoy di una alerta que iba a estar aquí en vivo a las 5. Pero si quieres saber cuándo vamos en vivo, puede seguir nuestra página y prender las notificaciones para saber exactamente cuándo vamos en vivo. Entonces, estamos aquí para contestar sus preguntas y si prefiere hacer sus preguntas con más confidencialidad, les recomiendo que llamen al 541-653-8899 para programar su llamada de descubrimiento. Es completamente gratuita para ver si tiene opciones de inmigración. So welcome everyone who's watching. We're here today for our live Q&A. I received some questions today regarding Uvisas. So we're going to be talking about that, giving some reminders about some updates to Uvisas. But meanwhile, feel free to ask any questions, put them in the comments, and I will get to those as soon as I see them. He recibido algunas preguntas hoy sobre casos de visa U, entonces vamos a estar contestando esas preguntas y platicando sobre la visa U, pero claro que si tiene alguna otra pregunta aparte de la visa U, puede ponerlo en los comentarios y puedo contestarlos al momento de verlos. So let's get into the U visa questions that I received today. There have been quite a few changes in the last year regarding U visas. And last night, my husband joined me for a Facebook Live, and we were talking about some of the changes that have happened in the last year since Biden took office. And even though it can get, I think it can get easy to be discouraged that we haven't seen the big immigration reform that we were hoping for, but there have been many changes just in the last year in policy and different ways that the immigration is processing cases. So U visas during the Trump administration were a little bit dangerous, honestly. I frequently didn't recommend filing them unless it was a very strong case. And that was because during the Trump administration, people could be deported just for filing an application like a U visa. And as a reminder, just kind of a step back, a U visa is for victims of certain qualifying crimes. So you're talking about someone who has been a victim of a crime, or they might have been eligible because their child was a victim of a crime. These are individuals who have obviously suffered quite a bit through that victimization of the crime. And those people were then subject to even more victimization by the Trump administration because their case was denied for whatever reason, and then they were put into deportation proceedings. So that has been a big change now under Biden. That is no longer a risk, no longer a fear that somebody needs to be afraid of. So it's important to remember that the U visa is for victims of certain crimes. We're going to talk about what crimes. A lot of times we see the most common one is domestic violence. So domestic violence victims have a number of different applications available to them. You may have heard about VAWA. Well, VAWA is only eligible if the person abusing them is a U.S. citizen or permanent resident spouse. So you have to have been married, and that person had to be a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident. But with the U visa, it could be domestic violence even if they weren't married, or even if their partner didn't have any legal status. So it's a much easier type of application to file if the person has been a victim of domestic violence. Of course, there's other crimes that qualify, and we're going to talk about that today. But the most common one that we see here at Molina Law Group is domestic violence. Vamos a estar platicando hoy sobre anuncios de la visa U. No sé si saben qué es la visa U. La visa U es para personas que han sido víctimas de ciertos delitos. La violencia doméstica es una de ellas, pero también hay otros delitos y vamos a estar platicando sobre esos tipos de delitos también. Pero esas personas han sido víctimas, o a veces sus hijos han sido víctimas y han reportado el delito a la policía, han participado en el proceso con el caso, y así pueden calificar para un estatus legal. Ahora, anoche estuve haciendo un video en vivo y estuvimos platicando sobre los cambios que ha habido desde que Biden empezó su presidencia. Y uno de los que platicamos anoche fue de que bajo Trump, personas que solicitaron la visa U y otras solicitudes humanitarias, si no tenían éxito en su caso, tenían el riesgo de deportación. Imagínense qué tan difícil es tratar de decidir si va a solicitar algo para mejorar su vida, pero también a la vez arriesgando, si no tiene éxito su caso, puede estar puesto en deportación. Pero gracias a Dios, bajo Biden, esto ya no es igual. O sea, cambiaron la póliza de nuevo, y esas personas que solicitan la visa U, si no tienen éxito por alguna razón, no le perjudica, no pueden estar puestos en proceso de deportación. Y pueden solicitar de nuevo si quieren, si tal vez algo no sucedió, no fue hecho bien en su caso, puede intentar de nuevo. Entonces, la visa U es algo que hemos visto que ayuda a muchas personas. Hay también otros remedios para personas víctimas de violencia doméstica, tal como la VAWA, pero la VAWA es para personas que fueron casados, que están casados o estuvieron casados con un residente o ciudadano. Entonces, eso es un requisito a fuerzas para la VAWA, pero para la visa U no tiene que haber estado casado y su pareja no tiene que haber tenido estatus legal. Entonces, es una diferencia, una distinción muy importante recordar. So U visa, as we were explaining, it's for victims of certain qualifying crimes. Domestic violence is certainly one of the crimes on that list that we see a lot of, but there's other crimes such as sexual assault, sexual abuse, blackmail is on the list, abduction, rape, kidnapping, murder, perjury, prostitution, let's see what else, slave trade, stalking. So stalking is something that you don't hear a lot about. Sometimes it's not even filed as a criminal case, but it can be. It is a crime. And so people who have been stalked, for example, we have helped a client in that situation who unfortunately was being followed to the place of work and after work. So we were able to help that individual in the process of getting a U visa because they were a victim of stalking. So that's an important one to keep in mind. torture, trafficking, witness tampering. So witness tampering, maybe someone was a witness to a crime, and then the person who was being accused or someone related to that person or involved with that person began to make threats to the witness to not participate in the processing of that crime. That's also a qualifying crime. So lots of crimes listed on that list, not just domestic violence, but many other types of crimes. But as you can see, it's definitely has to rise to a level of severity. So a serious type of a crime. Assault is also on that list. Assault does not have to be domestic violence. So if someone is assaulted, that can be a qualifying crime, but it has to be something that rises to the level of a felony level of assault. So something more than just a basic argument or fist fight, something a little bit more serious than that. Entonces, estamos platicando hoy sobre la visa U y los delitos que pueden calificar para la visa U. Hoy recibimos preguntas sobre la visa U y cómo calificar. Entonces, la mayoría de los casos que hemos procesado son casos de violencia doméstica, pero también cuentan otros delitos para procesar una visa U. Por ejemplo, hay una lista de delitos que pueden calificar. Entonces, por ejemplo, puede ser abuso sexual, puede ser extorsión, puede ser esclavitud, secuestro, asesino, también asalto sexual, asalto normal, tortura, y también la lista tiene nombrado el acoso, o sea, cuando alguien está, por ejemplo, perseguido o alguien está, por ejemplo, tenemos un cliente que fue víctima de eso, que alguien le seguía en su trabajo temprano en la mañana y saliendo de su trabajo. Entonces, esa persona tenía miedo de que le iba a suceder algo más grave. Entonces llamó a la policía, pidió protección, recibió un orden de no seguir. Entonces, esa persona calificaba para su visa U por medio de esto, aunque no llegó a una gravedad, gracias a Dios, no le llegó a hacer más daño, pero lo que sufrió fue suficiente para una visa U. También hemos visto casos cuando los hijos son los que sufrieron el daño, entonces son los papás que pueden calificar para su visa U por medio del participar, procesar su caso. Entonces, no tiene que ser una víctima directa, pero cuando la víctima es menor de edad, los padres, como sus padres, pueden calificar para la visa U si ellos participan y ayudan en el proceso del caso. Entonces, esto es algo importante recordar. So we're talking about the U visa. Many people have been discouraged from doing the U visa because there's only a limited number of visas available each year. And unfortunately, there's been a large number of victims that have been immigrants that have been victims. And so they've been able to take advantage of this visa. But as a result, what's happened is there's been a huge backlog of these applications. So to address that backlog, USCIS last summer announced a new process where they're giving all of the applications kind of a brief review and sending out a work permit if it looks like the basic requirements have been met for the U visa. So this is a huge change that started happening last summer, and we're already starting to see work permits being received by many of our clients. So it's a great change that they made, because before it was taking 5+ years to get a work permit even. So we're encouraging people who may have decided not to pursue a U visa to consider it now, especially that the processing is so much faster. It's a way to get legal status and have the ability to work lawfully. Meanwhile, the U visa continues processing and kind of waits in line until there's visas available. It would be great if Congress would change the number of visas available to increase it each year and get rid of that backlog. But till then, at least there's now a way to get a work permit while that U visa is in process. El verano pasado había un cambio muy importante para la visa U, porque sabemos, no, tal vez no sabe, pero hay una cierta cantidad de visas que están disponibles cada año. Y desafortunadamente ha habido muchas víctimas de delitos que han sido inmigrantes indocumentados. Entonces, esas personas han podido aprovechar del proceso de la visa U para recibir un estatus legal, pero también ha habido una fila, ha hecho una fila muy larga de muchos años de espera para recibir su permiso de trabajo y su visa U. Pero el verano pasado cambiaron, hicieron un nuevo proceso en lo cual se puede recibir un permiso de trabajo mucho más rápido. O sea, inmigración ahorita lo que están haciendo es haciendo un reviso muy breve, y si al revisarlo se nota que alcanza a tener todos los requisitos, puede recibir su permiso de trabajo. Y ya tenemos clientes que están recibiendo sus permisos de trabajo, entonces tenemos muchas esperanzas de que ese proceso va a ayudar a muchas personas más en recibir un estatus legal y un permiso de trabajo mucho más rápido que antes. Entonces estamos animando a todos que pueden pueden procesar su visa U lo antes posible para poder aprovechar de ese nuevo proceso. So we're talking today about U visas, but I'm open to any other questions. This was just some questions that came across today before I started my live video. And so I wanted to address the U visa and some changes that have been done to the U visa. I'm here for about 10 more minutes, so take advantage of this opportunity to ask your questions, either about U visas or any other types of cases. I'd be happy to answer those questions. Estamos contestando hoy preguntas sobre la visa U, pero estoy dispuesta también de tomar preguntas de otros temas. Y si tiene preguntas puede ponerlos en los comentarios y voy a verlos y contestarlos. All right, so we've talked about different types of crimes that qualify for the U visa. We've talked about who can apply for the U visa. It's not just the person who has been a victim of a crime, but many times if the victim was a child, the parents can qualify. If let's say maybe one partner in a marriage is the victim, the other partner can qualify as the spouse. Children under the age of 21 can also qualify if they're undocumented through one of their parents that qualifies. So it can really impact the whole family. There's also sometimes other relatives who can qualify as well. So it's a great way for the whole family to take advantage and really turn around something that was horrible. Obviously, no one wants to be the victim of a crime. But I always say that whenever something horrible happens, there's an opportunity there to turn it around and to be able to take something good away from it. Siempre digo que cuando algo mal sucede, tal como ser víctima de un delito, siempre digo que hay que buscar lo bueno que se puede sacar de esta cosa mal que sucedió. Entonces, qué bueno que existe esta oportunidad de procesar y aprovechar, pues, más que nada, de las leyes de inmigración que existen para proteger a los inmigrantes. Entonces, empezaron la visa U porque querían animar a los inmigrantes indocumentados de participar, hacer reportes, pedir protección y no tener miedo de que iban a tal vez ser deportados o algo así, o tener problemas de reportar su delito. Entonces, por eso empezaron el programa, y qué bueno que existe ese programa porque hace más seguro la comunidad cuando los inmigrantes pueden recibir la misma protección que los ciudadanos, y claro que merecen esa protección. So please, we're really trying to encourage people to take advantage of the U visa because it was created so that immigrants, undocumented immigrants, would be encouraged to participate with law enforcement, to call and make a police report, to ask for the kinds of protections that everyone in the U.S. Needs to receive, not just those who are citizens or permanent residents. And that's why the U visa program was created, to encourage immigrants to call and to make police reports and to participate in this process without fear that they might get detained themselves or get deported just for asking for protection. And so that's why the U visa was created. So we always encourage people to please take advantage of it. Out of something horrible, something really good can come out of that. So we encourage everyone to give us a call if you think that you might qualify. 541-653-8899. While we're waiting for some questions, I'm going to take a drink of water. All right, so I'm here for just about 5 more minutes more. Happy to take any questions from anyone that's watching. I know that there are several of you watching right now. Maybe you're too shy to ask your question here in front of everyone, because I do like to put up the comments and the questions so that everyone else can see them. So if you're too shy to do that, feel free to send us a private message or call us for your free discovery call, and we will happily look over your situation with the confidentiality, of course, of an attorney, the office that we are required to give you. We'd love to review that for you. We do have some questions coming in. Diego has a question, looks like, about DACA. Can DACA recipient without a legal entry or 245I get a green card through employment sponsor? Great question, Diego. Thank you for that question. So DACA is a great way to apply much easier through employers, through marriage. And the way that you can do it through an employment, would need to look at when the DACA was first received. So let's say that someone was 16 years old when they started getting DACA. They've renewed it every time since then. There's never been a time where there was like an expiration and then a lapse before the new one. If that's the case, then there's been no unlawful presence that is accrued, because the unlawful presence starts when you turn 18. So anytime before 18, it doesn't count. But after you turn 18, then that's when you have unlawful presence. So we would need to look and confirm that that person had DACA before turning 18. That has been approved and renewed without any problems after that. We'd also need to look at the manner of entry, because if there was a lawful entry, then it'll be much easier to get a green card through an employer. But if there was an unlawful entry, then we probably need to process through the consulate. But if you've had DACA since before 18 and you've always renewed it, then you don't need a waiver. And the waiver is the hard one that's difficult for many people, because you have to have a qualifying relative, either a spouse or a parent who's a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident. So getting your green card through DACA, and then if you didn't have a lawful entry, you could also use advanced parole to leave the country and come back legally, and then get a green card through employment. Getting a green card through employment is a little bit harder than through marriage. It takes a longer process. For example, it needs to be a job that we can show that there's no other U.S. citizen or permanent residents who are willing or able to do that job. So that has to go through a process in order to show that to the Department of Labor and to the Immigration Service. But it's a great way to consider getting a green card, especially if you're not interested in getting married yet. A lot of people, young kids these days, I can say that because I'm in my 40s now, but a lot of people are waiting much longer to get married. So that's a way for people to get a green card using their DACA. Diego, I hope that answered your question. Diego tenía una pregunta sobre procesando una mica por medio de trabajo, si tiene DACA. Entonces estoy explicando que las personas que han tenido DACA antes de los 18 pueden solicitar más fácilmente su mica por medio de matrimonio, por medio de trabajo, porque pueden demostrar que nunca han tenido tiempo ilegal aquí, porque el tiempo antes de los 18 años no cuenta. Entonces, si después de los 18 siempre ha tenido DACA, siempre ha renovado, va a poder calificar para su mica por medio de su trabajo. Es un poco más complicado procesarlo por trabajo que por matrimonio, por ejemplo. Pero sí es posible. Entonces, me encantaría platicar con cualquier persona que tiene DACA, si cree que puede calificar por medio de su trabajo. Y aquí en Molina Law Group, desde el principio del año, estamos ofreciendo llamadas de descubrimiento completamente gratuitas para saber si tiene opciones de procesar su caso para su mica por medio de trabajo. Gracias, Diego, para esa pregunta muy, muy buena de DACA. Thanks again, Diego, for that question. I appreciate you reaching out to us. If anyone has any questions about how to process a green card for someone who has DACA currently and might be interested in processing that through their current work, we would love to talk to you about that. Give us a call at 541-653-8899. We offer a free discovery call, so you can give us all your information. It's completely confidential, and we will review that for you for free and let you know if that might be an option for you. Of course, you can also do things through marriage, but as I was saying before, it seems like all you youngins are waiting longer and longer to get married. I totally approve of it. I think that waiting until your 30s to, using your 20s to travel and do all the fun stuff that you want to do, that's a great way to spend your 20s. I highly approve of that. 10 out of 10. Diego, thank you. Thanks for participating, Diego. I want to be able to send you a prize, Diego. So if you could shoot me a message with your name and address, I'd love to send you a prize for participating with our Q&A this weekend. As I've said earlier, we are here every Saturday and Sunday, and I welcome questions, and I gladly give prizes to people who participate, because you make the afternoon more interesting, and you make this show more interesting. So I appreciate that, Diego. Reach out to me, send us a message with your name and address, and we'll send you a little gift. All right, so we're going to be closing this out for today. Appreciate everyone who's watched us. Please share the video and get the word out. Let everybody know that we are doing this every Saturday and Sunday. Follow us and turn on notifications so you'll know when we go live. Gracias por estar con nosotros. Por favor, comparte ese video y ayuda a los demás para seguirnos y prender las notificaciones para que puedan saber cuándo vamos en vivo cada sábado y domingo. Hope you guys all have a great week, and I look forward to talking with you again right here next Saturday. Gracias a todos. Espero que pasen buen semana y nos vemos de nuevo el sábado que entra. Gracias. Hasta pronto.